Peggy Klinke was a vibrant, intelligent woman in her early 30s living in Tracy, California. A pharmaceutical sales representative, she was well liked by her coworkers and deeply loved by her family. She had grown up in Ohio but relocated to California for work and a fresh start. Her sunny personality and strong work ethic made her stand out, but something dark had followed her across state lines. For years, Peggy had been tormented by a former boyfriend named Patrick Kennedy. They had met in Ohio and dated briefly, but Peggy ended the relationship when his behavior became controlling. What should have been the end of a bad romance turned into the beginning of a nightmare. Kennedy began stalking her not long after the breakup. He followed her across states, harassed her friends and family, and frequently left her terrified. Peggy did everything she could to protect herself. She reported his behavior to police departments in both Ohio and California. She changed her phone number multiple times, moved apartments, and made sure to keep a low profile online. Despite all her efforts, Kennedy always seemed to find her. He would show up unannounced at her workplace or leave voicemails with disturbing messages. Restraining orders offered little peace, as Kennedy violated them with impunity. The emotional toll was severe. Peggy became increasingly anxious and isolated. Her outgoing demeanor changed to one of constant fear. Friends noticed she had stopped going out socially, and her family urged her to come home to Ohio. Peggy stayed, hoping authorities would finally take action. On January 18, 2003, Peggy spoke with her sister Marla. She sounded tired but said she was trying to stay hopeful. She mentioned a strange car parked near her apartment and noted she had seen Kennedy around again. That would be the last time Marla ever heard her sister's voice. 2 days later, after Peggy failed to show up to work or return calls, her employer called the police. When officers arrived at her apartment, they found the door slightly ajar. Inside was a gruesome scene. Peggy had been shot multiple times. The apartment showed no signs of a break-in, which suggested she either knew her killer or had been too frightened to resist. Investigators quickly focused on Patrick Kennedy. Witnesses had seen his vehicle near the complex in the days leading up to the murder. He had also sent a disturbing letter to one of Peggy's friends just a week earlier, implying that if he could not have Peggy, no one could. The manhunt was immediate. Authorities in multiple states were notified. Kennedy fled the state. A few days later, police tracked him to a hotel in Elko, Nevada. Before they could arrest him, Kennedy took his own life in the hotel room. He left behind a handwritten confession in which he claimed he killed Peggy because he believed she had ruined his life. His letter showed no remorse. In the aftermath, Peggy's family became advocates for stalking victims. They worked closely with lawmakers and victims' rights groups to push for stronger protections and better enforcement of stalking laws. Peggy's murder became a stark example of how law enforcement at the time often failed to address the growing threat of stalking, especially when it crossed jurisdictional lines. Peggy's case led to changes. Her sister testified before Congress, and Peggy's story was used in training materials for law enforcement to help them recognize the signs and dangers of long-term stalking. In a tragic sense, Peggy became a symbol for those whose warnings are not taken seriously until it is too late.